Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather. On the chart here, still have a winter weather advisory out for St. Lawrence Island and the Bering Strait coast, as well as the Yukon Delta. That's out, well, through tonight and into tomorrow there. Again, gusting winds 55 miles per hour for St. Lawrence Island, gusting 50 miles an hour here for the Yukon Delta. And some areas will pick up 2 to 4 inches of snow. So with those winds, visibility is down to a half mile at times in blowing snow. And there's still a winter weather advisory out for Turnagain Pass and Portage Valley for snow that lasts until 9 a.m. Sunday, which is tomorrow. And that for gusting winds to 60 miles per hour, snow and blowing snow there for visibilities down to a half mile at times as well. And then down here right on the lower right hand corner there, that's a winter storm watch for Hyder in the southeast coast for Sunday evening, continuing through Monday evening for up to a foot of snow, which could possibly fall during that time period. On the chart today, yesterday, just a lot of nice conditions there across the southeast coast, Gulf of Alaska. Clouds, areas of light snow over the interior, and low pressure moving eastward there just off the northern Arctic coast. And then big cloud shield here associated with that strong frontal system that brought those 80 mile per hour wind gusts to the eastern Aleutians. Strong winds last night for the Alaska Peninsula and the North Gulf Coast areas. You can see today that's pushed eastward and rotated northward, and kind of a secondary feature coming in behind here. So good gale force winds, Kodiak Island today with rain, snow spreading up to the Kenai Peninsula, Seward, Whittier, Cordova, all the way over to Yakutat, reporting snow this afternoon, also into Turnagain Arm as well, and also Homer and Seldovia, and just strong east winds there coming across the Aleutian Range for king salmon, and more showery conditions with lighter winds to the Alaska Peninsula, and snow kind of in areas here across the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, more extensive though for the St. Lawrence Island area, and also for Nunivak Island. That's been going on since last evening in that area. Here's the snow spreading in along with the increasing gradient out ahead of this front. Winds really picking up again, up to 50, 55 miles an hour. That lifting northward now, so winds diminishing behind the front from what they were. And again, rain, Kodiak back to the west, becoming showery toward the Alaska Peninsula. And rainfall amounts the last 24 hours. Falls Pass picked up about 1.5 inches, while King Cove had just under 1 inch of rain. Kodiak picking up 0.5 inch of rain. And lighter wind showers back to the west. Colder air bringing some snow showers in from the Shimia area in toward Adak and Atka during the day today. Otherwise, just high clouds increasing over the interior, and some lingering flurries around the central coast. Earlier today, that's ended now, and skies clearing out, temperatures dropping, and seeing some better flying conditions, especially along the eastern coastline. And for tonight, this front lifts north almost to Fognak Island, putting it right across the Barrens in toward Kamishak Bay. Still strong east and southeast winds ahead of that front tonight, right up the Kenai Peninsula. Again, that winter storm advisory, or winter weather advisory going for those areas. And a mixture of precipitation, warmer air riding in on those southeast winds. So snowfall levels will start edging upward. And looks like the coastal areas probably will change over to rain, and then a mixture northward. Nothing expected for the Susitna Valley on into Cook Inlet, probably all the way down to Anchor Point. Western Cook Inlet to the east slopes of the Alaska Range. Definitely see some snow there tonight. Mixture of conditions here across Bristol Bay and snow and blowing snow for the Yukon Delta, continuing for St. Lawrence Island. Rain and snow showers, lighter winds for the Pribilofs, and showery conditions there for the Aleutians. Not too bad here for the Panhandle, just mostly clear or variably cloudy. And the Arctic coast, still a risk of some flurries, mainly around the central coast. The remainder of the area up here, pretty tranquil. Forecast tomorrow, the low center here tracks to just east of Fognac Island. So again, rain and snow depending on your latitude and elevation here for the North Gulf Coast and Prince William Sound. And that pushing eastward in toward the Panhandle. Definitely increase in the winds there, gale force winds, actually storm force winds for the north coast of the Panhandle for tomorrow afternoon. And moisture pushing in, starting out as snow, changing over to rain, mostly over the southern and coastal areas there. But up to the north, it'll be in the form of snow, probably throughout the entire period. Showers diminishing Kodiak Island, scattered showers here for the Alaska Peninsula. Still a batch of snow up here across the Yukon Delta, not so much in the Kuskokwim Valley. And that kind of exiting northern Bristol Bay. Look for some possible mixed precipitation there for the southwest coast. Snow and blowing snow continues for St. Lawrence Island. Easterly winds beginning to become a little more northeasterly late tomorrow afternoon, actually tomorrow night and into Monday. Very fair with increase in the winds here for the northwest coast, Noatak Valley areas, and diminishing though for the Arctic coast, maybe a few lingering flurries, and that's about it, although winds now switching around to the east-northeast from the direction you've seen recently, and a pretty good trough swinging through the western Aleutians, good cold air following in behind, so a lot of snow showers pushing in toward Shimia and Amchitka, rain and snow, Adak and Atka. Just rain showers, scattered rain showers for the eastern Aleutians. On up to the Alaska Peninsula, winds lightening up behind that trough, and they stay pretty light here for the southwest coast on Monday. Northeast, though, pretty brisk for St. Lawrence Island, back to the Bering Strait, coming around near and just west of St. Matthew Island, swinging back around, gale force west-northwesterlies coming into the central Aleutians now, spreading eastward, and looks like gale force, full gales here south of the Fox Islands, a little bit less up to the north, and some isolated showers showing up for the Alaska Peninsula. And also for Kodiak Island, cloudy skies here with areas of light snow or snow showers, pretty numerous, but on the light side from the Alaska Range here down to the Aleutian Range, westward all the way out to the coast and St. Lawrence Island. Look for some snow up there just east of the Seward Peninsula, and also some lingering snow up around Arctic Village from about Fort Yukon on up, and northeast winds keep fog and flurries at times there for the central and eastern Arctic coast, VFR back to the west, and a low center develops and drives eastward. So again, a good shot of moisture coming into the southern Panhandle with that winter storm watch out for Hyder, possibly a foot of snow falling tomorrow night through Monday. And definitely whatever falls will be in the form of snow up here over the northern southeast coast, Juneau, Skagway, Haines on up the Klondike Highway. Temperatures this afternoon down that way, lower 20s to lower 30s with 21 degrees there at Wrangell, 32 Sitka, up to 33 though at Annette with Juneau at 28, 33 some snow both at Cordova and Yakutat, 24 there at Valdez with 31 at Seward, 35 Homer, near or just above zero there throughout the Copper River Basin, although higher elevations actually getting a little warmer. Below zero there for the Tanana Valley, -8 at Northway, 1 below at Tok, Delta 7, back down to 3 below at Fairbanks, 20 degrees Talkeetna, Willow at 5, and 15 for Palmer, 20 Kenai. Farther north, there was 4 below zero at Fort Yukon there, -1. Over at Bettles, Anatuvik -2. Clearing skies here with light winds. Nuiqsut falling to 21 below zero this afternoon. Otherwise, Kaktovik at 8, -6 Point Lay. 0 to 10 here over the northwest. Mid-20s though, warmer air moving into the Nome area. 25, 27 at Savunga. Lower to mid-20s here for the Yukon Delta. Lower 30s for the Kuskokwim Delta. And quite a range here from 19 at McGrath to 31 at Sparrowvon, and 35 to 40 for the Pribilofs. Upper 30s, lower 40s for the peninsula, 30s all the way out to Shimia. Lows for tonight, no change, 30s out in this area, down to 25 below up north of the Brooks Range, and otherwise right around zero here for the Tanana Valley, except over the eastern areas dropping below zero. Temperatures lower to upper 20s, so some warming going on here, south central Alaska. Lows well into 30s, Kodiak Island and Bristol Bay. Chillier conditions there, mid-teens to maybe lower 20s for the Panhandle. Highs for tomorrow shaping up like this, 30s for all of the southeast coast, but below freezing here over the north. And upper 30s there right along the coastline for the North Gulf Coast and near 40 down toward Kodiak Island in Leomna. Otherwise, south central Alaska rising into the lower to mid-30s. And single numbers in teens for the Tanana Valley, a little below zero, a shade below zero from the Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast, and pretty mild here in the southwest, temperatures 35 to 40, near 40 for Alaska. And flying weather tonight, IFR already going on here, and for the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, Kenai Peninsula, back to the west where it's more widespread out here along the southwest coast on up to St. Lawrence Island, improvement to the south. And for tomorrow afternoon, IFR now into the northern southeast coast and to a lesser extent down south. IFR persisting North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, southern Kenai Peninsula, some of that working northward there up toward the Alaska Range. Otherwise, pretty good VFR up to the north. IFR, Bristol Bay, southwest coast, northern Bering Sea, and then better conditions down toward the Pribilofs and out over the Aleutians. Passes, Anatuvik, VFR tomorrow, same forecast for Adigan. Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR, IFR possible on both eastern approaches. And for Rainy, not quite as bad, but lower conditions or the lowest conditions. Marginal VFR will be found on the eastern entrance, otherwise VFR through the pass on out into the valley. And for Windy, marginal VFR possible on the southern entrance, otherwise VFR. And Isabel, that same pattern, south to north flow, so northern entrance VFR, is the pass and south will be marginal. Mentastido VFR all the way through, and Tanita looks like VFR conditions through tomorrow. Portage, however, IFR. Chilcoot and White look for rapid deterioration in conditions, especially tomorrow afternoon, all the way down to IFR possible by this time tomorrow. And for the freezing levels, lifting northward here, north of St. Lawrence Island now, and then back down across just south of Bethel, Kenai Peninsula, and down along the Panhandle, 2,000 feet, wrapping back up around Kodiak Island to the Aleutian Range. And taking a look at icing, for tomorrow, that front, of course, North Gulf Coast from the western Alaska Range, Kenai Peninsula, right down, spreading eastward in toward the Panhandle, especially in the afternoon, diminishing there for Kodiak Island, but a swath extending right across the southwest part of the state to St. Lawrence Island, breaking out over the Pribilofs, and another swath right through here from the Alaska Peninsula. Looks like that'll be mostly north of the Aleutians. So taking a look at the winds aloft, jet stream, this low pulling off slowly, kind of hanging up there now, but still going to keep the the Arctic coast, north slope under westerly flow, 45 to 70 knots. Pacific jet well to the south here, coming up right across Dixon Entrance, but only at about 70 knots. And for 9,000 feet, much more wind here tomorrow for the approaching the Panhandle, 50 to 55 knots. Easterlies, 65 knots there right along the North Gulf Coast, supporting storm warnings there in the marine forecast. 50 to 60 knot winds through here, back around to the southwest and lighter 20 to 30 knots, but picking up to about 40 over the western Aleutians. And 3,000 foot winds, westerlies, 30 to 40 knots all the way to the Alaska Peninsula. And 60 knot winds, 3,000 feet here right off the southeast coast. Easterlies at 60 right along the North Gulf Coast. And then dropping back as they cross the Alaska Range, 40 to 50 knot winds up to the north here. Lighter southwest winds, southeast Bering Sea. Westerlies 30 to 40 over the Aleutians. And light winds over the eastern Arctic coast, Brooks Range. Pick up about 20 to 25 as you head west. And for turbulence, pretty good swath here of moderate chop in the turquoise area from Dixon Entrance, increasing here for the Panhandle during the afternoon. North Gulf Coast, severe possible Montague Island along the southern Kenai Peninsula with those strong easterly winds, mechanical turbulence right through there. Otherwise moderate chop down along the Aleutian Range, western Alaska, all the way up to just south of Point Lay. And then less turbulence here over the Bering Sea, but with those west winds, occasional moderate chop, below 47,000 feet for all of the Aleutians. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
The 70 nautical mile trip to Skagway from Juneau is fairly straightforward. One noteworthy item is the lack of beaches in the area. The slope of the mountains continues to the bottom of the canal, causing small rocky outcroppings in most areas. There are a couple of small dirt strips located at Glacier Point and Endicott on the west side and Katsahine on the east side. Flying up the Lynn Canal to Taya Inlet is the preferred route to Skagway. The Lynn Canal has several prominent reporting points that are used by the local operators and private pilots.
Connected 63 Proxy Islander, the departure end is headed for Portland Island, runway 26, cleared for takeoff. 63 Proxy. Roger, taxi in position for you.
After departing Juneau to the west, you should fly to the right side of Lynn Canal, close to the land mass. Utilize the hemispheric rule for determining your flying altitude. The first prominent departure reporting points are Lena Point, T Harbor, Eagle Beach, and Benjamin Island. Next, you will approach Berners Bay, Bridget Point, and Echo Cove, which will be to the right. After passing Berners Bay, Point St. Mary's is the next reporting point. Keep in mind, Berners Bay is important as a reporting point. Most poor weather conditions for the Lynn Canal are generated in this area. Adiabatic winds descending from the ice fields to the north of Berners Bay can create fog or turbulence depending on the temperature dew point spread. Tour operators will normally report Sherman Point on the other side of Berners Bay and Eldred Rock Lighthouse. Sullivan Island is to the left. The canal splits at this point, with Chilkat Inlet leading to Haines to the left, while Chilkoot Inlet bears right to Skagway.
Harbor 1004 Hughes.
Continuing to follow the shoreline to the right, the canal splits again, forming Lutak Inlet to the left, which is a dead end. On the right is Taya Inlet, which takes you to Skagway. Once in Taya Inlet, report Taya Point and fly to the left side of the inlet to conform with prevailing traffic in the area. When approaching Skagway, be alert for tour operators in the area and for helicopter traffic departing and arriving at Skagway. The traffic pattern is at 1,000 feet with right-hand traffic for runway 19 to avoid the town of Skagway. It will appear that the pattern is close to the mountain, and it is. You will find that you are quite close to the trees on the downwind.
Approach Skagway.
A close-in base turn around the water tanks to almost immediate final is needed to avoid overshooting the final approach. This is a tight, narrow canyon that consistently generates turbulent winds in the pattern and on the runway. Be aware that there is a bridge with automobile and truck traffic at the end of the final approach end for runway 19. The bridge is used as a final reporting point. There's a school to the left of the runway just beyond the bridge that must not be overflown. Since the runway is narrow and 3,700 feet long, it gives the appearance that you must land on the approach end numbers in order to stop by the end of the runway.
Welcome back. Looking at today's sea ice analysis, Bering Strait here continuing to pinch off, and that's forecast to continue to fill in there for the next 3 days. And also this area should start to see an increase as well, especially with these easterly winds turning more northeast for Monday. And marine forecasts that incoming front, gales 40 to 45 knots from the south coast, storm force winds coming in tomorrow afternoon for the north coast with seas running 20 to 22 feet. Lynn Canal down to 15 knots tomorrow, small craft advisories for Stevens Passage, and good gales coming in to the forecast there for Clarence Strait at 40 knots. And then for Monday, lighter winds, still looking at gales down here with that system coming into the southern coastal areas. I'll be kind of changing throughout the day as the low center rolls on through. So east to southeast 30 to 35, east 35 for Clarence Strait, southeast 25. Stevens Passage, and Lynn Canal swinging around to the south at 20 knots. Same thing here on the north coast, otherwise small craft advisories for the central coast. And for the Cook Inlet zones tomorrow, 35 to 40 knot winds from the northeast, 7 to 12 foot seas. Prince William Sound east, 45 knots, and storm force southeasterlies at 55 knots for the North Gulf Coast, diminishing here down to 30 at the Barren Islands, southwest 25 for Kodiak, and even lighter for Chillicothe Strait. And then for Monday, westerlies 15 to 20 knots, Kamishak Bay and the Strait with northwest 25 for the Barren Island areas, westerlies 30 knots east of Kodiak Island. And for the western North Gulf Coast, winds out of the north at 20 knots, southeast small craft advisories there for the eastern coast. Winds really laying down now, northeast 15 for Prince William Sound and Cook Inlet. And for Bristol Bay, south 20 knots, we've got gales going from Cape Sarachev all the way up to Sitkinak out of the west with 22-foot seas. And then for Monday, still southwest at about 35 from Castle Cape to Cape Sarachev. Small craft advisories on the north side of the peninsula. And then westerly winds here, 20 knots for Bristol Bay. And tomorrow for the eastern Aleutians, west-southwest, 35 to 40 knots, 18 to 20-foot seas. And minimum gales there for the central Aleutians all the way back to Shemya where they turn northwest. And then for Monday, coming down to 25 knots out west here, but 40 knots to 45 knots for Adak and Atka, all the way over to about Nikolsky, and then west-southwest, 35 to 45 for the Fox Islands. And for the southwest coast, south of Nunivak Island, lighter southwesterly winds. Tomorrow, small craft advisories for the Pribilofs. And east become northeast 40 knots here for St. Lawrence Island, on down near and west of St. Matthew Island. And those become more northerly for Monday, with gale force northeasterlies here for St. Lawrence Island, heavy freezing spray, light southeasterlies for Nunivak Island, southwest 20 blowing into Kuskokwim Bay. And up along the Arctic coast, we've got east-northeast 10 to 15 on the east side from the central coast, 15 increases to 20, and then from Cape Beaufort down to Wales, northeast brisk wind advisories at 25 knots. And that picks up to a gale for Monday here from Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort. Otherwise, brisk wind advisories for the western coast, dropping back to 20 here for the central coast, and then down to 15 as you get into that eastern zone on over to Demarcation Point. For tonight, again, winter weather advisory continues St. Lawrence Island, also the Yukon Delta, and for Turnagain Pass and Portage Valley. Otherwise, warmer conditions, getting more of a mixed precipitation at low elevations here for the North Gulf Coast. And that whole system drives moisture, storm force winds here for the north coast of the Panhandle, and a winter storm watch out for the Hyder area for possible further snow. That begins tomorrow night and continues through Monday as that system drives eastward. Snow northern Panhandle, mixture along the North Gulf Coast, lots of snow showers here over the southwest part of the state. Dry for the Tanana Valley, more snow up to the northeast, flurries for the Arctic coast, lots of showers and wind for the Aleutians. We'll have a great Christmas Eve, and I'll see you again tomorrow.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.